everyone. On behalf of Chairperson Uma Chigurupati and her committee, I, Honorary Secretary Flow, Radhika Agarwal, extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guest speakers, Ms. Mona Verma and Mr. S. Hali, respected past chairs, members old and new, to Flow Hyderabad's third session of learning modules dealing with feelings at workplace. We proudly profess that women in the workplace and beyond have proved their stupendous presence in almost every sphere. They invest more sincerely and are emotionally valiant in comparison to their male counterparts. Therefore, they are rightly called as superwomen. But despite achieving such huge laurels, women continue to struggle against the obstacles which are not of their own making. Let us discuss the most predominant challenges that women in the workplace face in the day-to-day life. Before that, let's start the session by paying homage to our motherland by salutation to our national flag. Now, I would like to invite Chairperson Uma Chigurupati to give her welcome address.
Thank you, Radhika. A very good evening all, and a warm welcome to Ms. Mona Verma and Mr. S. Hali, past chairs and dear members. We all know the motto of Flow is power to empower, and we at Flow Hyderabad have taken up a few initiatives to empower the greater 50, both at grassroots and white collar level. Many startup programs and personality development programs have taken up to help the performance of the members in their respective fields. Ms. Mona Verma and Mr. S. Hali are soft skill experts and inspirational speakers. A workshop from them, I'm sure we all will enjoy, and there will be a lot of points to take back with us. Soft skills are a cluster of productive personality traits that characterize one's relationships in a social environment. These skills can be communication abilities, language skills, personal habits, social graces, emotional empathy, time management, teamwork, and leadership traits. If we assume soft skills as an umbrella for skills, it will have three functional elements: people skills, social skills, and personal career attributes. The importance of soft skills lies in the fact that they are not restricted to a specific field. They can be used in every aspect of people's lives. These skills make people flexible in a world which keeps changing. Interest in soft skills has increased over the years. More people understood the relevance of this concept. Because of their rising importance, the need to teach soft skills has become a major concern for educators and employers all over the world. The huge amount of funds companies and worldwide organizations are investing in the training and development of this field shows the interest in this program. Every stage and phase of life, whether in student life, seeking job, or to grow in the business or career, or even in interpersonal relationships, communication, language skills, behavioral aspects, and social graces are very important. These are the skills one can learn if she or he is willing to work. Let's listen to our speakers today. Over to you, Radhika, for the introduction of today's speakers.
Thank you, Uma. Mr. S. Hali and Mona Verma are a team soft skill experts and inspirational speakers running an organization, Disha. Disha conducts workshops on organizational etiquettes, corporate proprieties, soft skills, and the enhancement amongst many other facets in multinational companies, public sector undertakings, corporate setups, and for faculty at acclaimed universities and colleges. Mona Verma is an award winning author of 15 published works, including A Bridge to Nowhere, God is a River, Lost and Found in Banaras, to name a few. Her books have been subject of thesis for many research scholars, and excerpts from her book have been used in ICSE ELT series. She is on board of various universities as an advisory expert for creative writing, haiku, and limericks. She is a regular invitee to Writers Meet for by Governor of Uttarakhand at Raj Bhavan, Dehradun. She's involved in lot of philanthropic activities too. Mona has been featured in Incredible Women of India talk shows too. Over to Learning Modules Head Pooja Mitra for introduction of our next speaker, Mr. S. Hali.
Thank you, Radhika. It is indeed my pleasure to introduce Mr. Hali. Mr. Hali is an industry professional with over 36 years of experience with a Maharatna public sector major, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. His area of expertise include sales and marketing of power producing equipment, project management, spares and services, management and renovation of large power sector projects in both domestic and international sectors. He superannuated from BHEL as General Manager, Engineering and Commercial Coordination. His training acumen was heightened when he served as faculty of the in-house training programs at BHEL as President of Haridwar Management Association and then as Secretary, BHEL Education Management Board. During his tenure, he administered 7 schools, 5 higher secondary schools and 2 primary schools under the management of BHEL, catering to the educational upliftment of students from economically weaker sections of the society. He is also a member of Academic Review Committee of Anushruti, IIT Roorkee. I would like now to invite Mrs. Mona Verma and Mr. Hali to commence the session. Request you all to keep your questions in the chat box, which will be addressed at the end of session. And please keep your paper and pen ready. Over to you, speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pooja.
I'm not very good at that. The new medium we used to do offline training programs, but my younger colleague is better equipped to handle this. That is why I sit in the background and let her handle the stuff.
A very good afternoon to Uma ma'am, to Radhika and Pooja. Thank you for inviting us. And shall we start after the very generous introduction all of you have given? We are very much encouraged to just go for it now.
Please.
Chat boxes.
So the chat boxes need to be open. Everybody has a chat box open and the pens and pencils or paper, everything ready. So beginning from here, by now, both of you must have realized who S. Hali is and who Mona Verma is from amongst us. So we are Team Disha and we will be talking to you today, women professionals, about women professionals and the various paradoxes that are plain workplace, the communication skills and time management. All these 3 are the pillars, not really, I would say, like the devils all of us are up against, but let us see how we can go around them, how we can circumvent the problem through talking to each other, through having a very warm interaction with each other, through various videos and lots of activities as well. 2020 as well as 2021 has not been the most visionary year for anyone for that matter, but I guess that it's for women that it has been a huge challenge that they have been up against. Now, let us see what has happened to us in 2020 and 2021 in the coming slides. But as they say that a lot has changed in 2020 and 21, but the more things change, they say, the more they remain the same. For example, if you see, now today, so many women have entered into the working sphere. Earlier, women were basically takers at home, but now because so many women have come into the work sphere, many things have changed, both for the women as well as the people in the work sphere. Because everything that was there in the work sphere was very much conducive for men folk. right from the infrastructure to the policies to the way work was conducive to menfolk. But when women entered, they were up against a challenge. But what would women do now? Would they challenge the system into accepting them? Would they force the system into accepting them? Or would they go around the system in such a way that they grow with it? And this is what strong women do. Strong women do not need validation from outside. They do not need validation. They grow with the system, they grow alongside and bring out their best qualities while taking everybody else in their team, because that is what they were all set out to do even in their home sphere. So thank you, everybody. Let us get started with the first module that we have, the workplace paradigms, and let's see how that goes further. So times have changed, as we just said, we have more women at work. So it's a change. It is a change in the work sphere, which seemed very challenging in the beginning, which got very messy in the middle. But at the end of the day, it turned out to be something which was the best thing to have happened to work sphere when women came in. But during 2020, as well as in 2021, we all were up against a challenge, as there was the gracious lady from Kashmir who was saying the children do not come in your way. In fact, they enhance your growth. But it was only 2020 and 2021 the children did come in our way when we were working from home. So just for gags, a small video over here to make you laugh like an icebreaker, and then we go on with our modules.
Just take a minute, Mona. Could you just enlarge it, make it full screen?
Okay.
Could you just make the presentation?
It is already running full screen at my end.
No, for us it is not.
Okay, not for you. Hang on. Let me see.
So you need to make it full screen from the right bottom.
I know the right bottom, but my icons are not showing. My icons are not showing here. The right bottom is certainly there.
Okay, just go, yeah.
Can you see the right bottom side ice cream icon, cone icon?
Yeah, I know that is there. I know the icon also, the slide share icon, but mine is not coming up at the moment. But is it very minuscule for you?
Yes,
is
it
it way
is.
too small?
It is.
Okay, hang on.
These are chosen stresses.
That's the chosen stresses.
Okay, then if you can't, just go ahead.
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead with this. It is visible, very much visible, because we have more text. So we would not hang.
It came yesterday.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so let's go on with the video just for gags. Just to understand, the devil's women are up against both in the home sphere as well as work sphere. And the moment they try to club it all together, it's far worse for us than it's for men.
My name is Yvette. I'm calling from House Experts. I'm following up on your request for a free estimate on flooring. If you'd like, you can call us back at 1-800-555-5555. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
This is what is basically happening with women. This is happening to all of us in the home sphere when we are trying to balance way too much and juggling too many balls in a go. Let us go forward from here. Sir will take on from here, and then we will keep coming back in turns according to the topics that have been assigned to us.
We talk about workplace paradigms, although the topic was concerning mainly the women professionals, but I will start with the initial offerings. When any professional joins any setup, any organization or any setup, where does the streams diverge? Where do they go in different directions? Let us just talk about it. Now, this is a picture which depicts a boulder and a small sapling, right? This sapling is the young new professional who joins an organization or any setup for that matter. And the boulder is that organization or that setup. Now, please tell me which of the two has the capacity to inflict damage on the other. The boulder or the sapling?
The sapling.
It's no brainer. I think it's the boulder which has the capacity to inflict damage on the sapling. Now, this sapling is a young professional, whether women professional or man professional. This is the sapling. What is happening is when you are young, when you are entering any organization, you have all those bright ideas, although untested. You have the enthusiasm, you have the vigor to really change the world. And that with that enthusiasm, when you enter the organization, what happens is with these most young professionals is they try to implement whatever comes to their mind about a task or about an activity or about a process. They want to implement their ideas, but they are up against that boulder which is already there. They have just entered that organization. So they have two choices, either to get directly in conflict with the boulder, or I will come to that subsequently. When they get directly in conflict with the boulder, what is happening is that this boulder has the capacity to crush it. So they get disillusioned. Very early on, they get disillusioned. A case of what kind of an organization is this? They can't implement new ideas and stuff like that. Now, a sensible professional who has a long career ahead of him, he or she will grow alongside that boulder. They don't get into conflict with the boulder. They grow alongside that boulder. And after some time, when they have mastered their skill set and they have attained a position in that organization, they become this big tree. That sapling grows into a big tree. Now, from a distance, what can you see? What is more prominent, the boulder or the tree?
Tree.
It is the tree. It has grown alongside the boulder. Far too often, I have seen very bright professionals. They get in direct conflict, confrontation with the organization, trying to change too many things too fast. Things don't happen like that. That was the first lesson we learned when we started our journey. And I think it's a very good lesson for young professionals who join any setup. They must not get into direct confrontation with the organization. They must grow alongside, use all its available resources, and develop themselves, contribute productively to the organization, and upgrade themselves gradually. Now, women have different, experiences at the workplace. In the initial years, they do not show up. But when they are going up in the hierarchy, then suddenly, like the natural laws which are there in the world, like the gravitational law, they feel that there are certain unwritten laws and rules which were not there in the brochure when they were advertising the recruitment. They come into play when they ascend the hierarchy. And those rules are old boys network in the organization, which is not comfortable with women professionals. Then they are up against, they feel that they are evaluated based upon their contribution, whereas men professionals are evaluated based upon their potential. Then they see that the evaluation system is also subtly altered to suit the men professionals. Stuff like that. I am sure that many women who have gone up in that, they have faced these problems while in their journey so far. Now, there are a couple of things, although it's a very big subject, we are concentrating on only three issues as far as the workplace paradigms are concerned. The first that we come up against is Abelin's paradox. Now, let me try to explain what is this Abelin's paradox. Just have a look. You are a team leader. You are a professional who has people reporting to you. Do you come across situations like this? Of course, we all do. We have people reporting to us, and they, everybody does not respond to a task or activity in the same manner as we expect them to do. Now you are a team leader, you assign some tasks to your team members, and you have told them, look, this and this task needs to be done, and this has to be done in this fashion. Do I get yes from you people? Everybody nods their head, yes. They say, yes, it will be done, fine. And you are very happy, smug in the belief that I have got yes from my team members, and now this task will be done of the quality that I expect and in the timeline that I have told them. Does it happen? Doesn't happen. Where is the problem then? Now let us come to the problem. When you have got yes from your team members, this is typically we called in corporate setups, you have got trapped in Aveline's paradox. Now let me try to explain what is this Aveline's paradox. I will illustrate a small example, then I will tell what exactly is this Aveline's paradox. This is a family of 4 people, husband, wife, daughter, and son. It is husband's birthday today. Wife knows that it is her husband's birthday, and she suggests in the evening that let us go out for a dinner. She gives this proposal to her family members. Husband says yes, daughter says yes, son says yes. Fine. Her wife knows that her husband likes Gujarati food. So she says that let us go to the Gujarati restaurant. Everybody says yes, and they all go to the Gujarati restaurant to have a meal. On their journey back, the wife, she hears some murmuring from behind. First, the daughter says, I wish we had gone to some Chinese restaurant, had some Chinese food there. Then the son comes, I wish we had gone to some Punjabi restaurant, had some chicken and stuff like that. And of all the people, the husband says, I also wanted to go to some South Indian restaurant, have some this thing. The mother or the wife, she is flabbergasted. What happened? When I put that proposal to you people, I said, we go to, everybody said yes. Now, why are you murmuring now? You should have told me that there and there itself, no, we don't want to go to Gujarati restaurant. Then we could have arrived at some consensus. This typically is the Aveline's paradox. Inability to manage agreement. There was an agreement that all of them will go to Gujarati restaurant, but they have not been able to manage the agreement because when group of people collectively decide on a course of action, that is contrary to their preferences of most of the individuals in the group. The husband says, I did not want to disappoint you. That's why I did not say yes. That's why I said yes. The son also said the same thing. The daughter also said the same thing. This is what happens at workplace also. Your employees or your people who are reporting to you, it's a positional thing. If you have floated an idea that this task is to be done by this time and by this manner, nobody will say no, because then he will be out of the line, and he knows it has consequences. He or she knows it has consequences. That is why they say yes. So my request to all the budding professionals or already those who are running enterprises, it is better to thrash out things right at the start when things are taking shape and bring all the differences to the fore, which can be sorted at that time. And later on, when you have said yes, but your mind is not with it, the task will not be done. So it is better to thrash out things. That increases the commitment of the people down below. Then it is not your idea, that is, they are party to that, their ideas also. I hope I have been able to make it clear. So if you get yes next time, sit down, talk to them, said, you have said yes. No, I am throwing this question open. Please tell me, are there any will some difficulties will be faced? What are the problems? The solution that I have suggested, can it be done in this timeline and stuff like that? And the other confusion that we have is the persuasion and intimidation. We feel we are persuading our people, but they think that they are getting intimidated. There's a big gap. We feel that we are, persuading them. They feel they are getting intimidated. Now let us understand the difference. A mother and her 7-year-old son, they go to a shopping mall. The mother has to collect some grocery from the shopping mall, and she picks up a cart and tells her 7-year-old son, you sit on the cart till I get all the stuff from the shelves and I'll put in the cart. He keeps standing, the son keeps standing. The mother goes, picks up some stuff and brings it to the cart and throws it in the cart and sees her son standing, says, I have told you to sit on the cart. Why are you still standing? The son doesn't say anything, he keeps standing. The mother goes back again to the various shelves, brings other stuff, puts in the cart. Then she sees her son again standing. Then she says that, are you deaf? I have told you to sit on the cart. Why are you standing? Grudgingly, the son sits on the cart and he is murmuring something to himself. The mother overhears it. The son is saying, I may be sitting down from outside, but I am standing up from inside. I may be sitting down from outside, but I'm standing up from inside. So when we force people to do something, we feel that we are persuading them, but they are getting intimidated because it's a positional thing. So when they comply with your instructions, it does not mean they follow you. By agreeing, they are merely accommodating you. You are not persuading them, you are intimidating them. So next time when you say persuasion, be clear about persuasion. Persuasion means it's a two-way traffic. You say something, they say something. Intimidation means it's a one-way traffic. So next time when you assign some task to your team members, you must ask yourself 2 questions. First is, can they? This is about ability. And if you have team members, they are working with you, you have a fairly good idea about their ability. More importantly, will they? This is about attitude. This is something which you have to work on. If you know there will be resistance for an idea or for some task which you want them to accomplish, then talk about it. Talk with them, listen to their objections, try to incorporate these objections into your plan of things. Then there is a sure-shot success is possible.
Now we are coming to another part of women's professional life, which basically gives them so much of angst and distress. One of them is ruminating. Both in our personal as well as in our professional sphere, we have a tendency, at least I have it, I don't know if you would comply with that system of thought or not, but mulling over the mistakes, if something goes wrong, the kind of regrets that we undergo or the kind of regrets we nurse when something doesn't work the way we wanted it to, and whatever negative experiences that we've had in the past regarding our professional life or in the personal sphere, how they impact what we are doing right now. Let us understand. Whenever something goes wrong, generally what women do, the kind of grievance they nurse, is the victim attitude. And ruminating is a thin line between the victor as well as the victim attitude. Now, when something happens, after some time, we start playing like a cassette recorder. What happened? What did somebody say? Why did somebody say that? There are various questions that come to our mind. And we keep lending these questions so much strength that they occupy our entire day. So like, there are animals, many mammals who are ruminants. So when they eat, and they keep bringing it up and keep chewing the cud again and again. So ruminating is also just like chewing the cud, something like this. I have eaten it, it has happened, and yet I keep bringing it back into my head and wondering about why this happened. This shouldn't have happened. What led to something like this? Was it my mistake? And all this is known as some sort of an analysis paralysis. Why do we call it analysis paralysis? Because it is an analysis that paralyzes any further action. Why did I say that? I shouldn't have said that. What must she have thought? When will I stop being so stupid and stop repeating my mistakes? When will I ever learn? What the hell is wrong with me? Everything is being directed inwards. This is how we think. What will people say about this? Was it something that I did? Could people have misinterpreted that? And these are questions that come to your mind, yes or no? Whenever something goes wrong. Why is it that women always think that everything is about themselves? It's all about us. It is never about somebody else. But have you ever wondered that it could be about somebody else too? Let us see how. Let us see how we lend strength to things. I'm going to play a song for you, and I want you to enjoy this song. It's a beautiful song from the 1960s as far as...
These country roads take me home. 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 These country roads take me home.
Pooja, you started with a smile, but after that you stopped smiling. Why?
Because the song was on the loop. When it started, I was expecting it to continue, but then it stopped. So I understood what you're getting at. Is it that there's the same thought that keeps, playing on your mind? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Pooja, you are what you are because you could come to that conclusion. So a big hand to you.
Thank you.
We played the song and the song kept going in a loop again and again. So something that started off on a very right note turned into something which became very disturbing after some time. This happened to you within, 48 seconds that I played that song. And what if you would play the same thought loop in loop for the entire day? What would that thing do to you? This is exactly what happens to us. That thought, anything that goes wrong, acquires so much of strength because we keep feeding it. We keep feeding it with our time, we keep feeding it with our strength, that it becomes so strong that we fail to understand that even that there's a solution that might exist. Because the entire mental space is occupied by the loop. We don't laugh at the same joke if it is said several times. But we keep hurting over the same issue through the entire day. There's a lovely saying which goes like this, that was it a bad day or the 5 minutes that you kept milking the whole day? So it was those 5 days that overpower the other 23 hours, 55 minutes of the day. Somebody has hurt you, disturbed you, you feel exploited, betrayed by somebody, cheated on you. Other people move on after they're done with you. But in spite of the fact that it is not our mistake, we keep carrying this mental pressure about on us. And also, why do people keep doing that to us? They also keep doing that to us because we are not able to reach a solution. we keep asking ourselves, why do they keep doing it? Instead, we should be asking ourselves, why do I keep allowing it to happen? Time after time, your very acceptance of to the first time something goes wrong is a clue to the other person that this is permitted. And they have become very comfortable in making you uncomfortable. So you have lent the remote control in somebody else's hands. Your remote control, if you want to change the channel, it has to be in your hands. The other person is going to use the remote control the way they want it and whatever else that they want to see. So we tend to, after that, after we ruminated, what happens when we keep ruminating? We tend to vent our emotions to people in our professional sphere who we take to be our friends or somebody who sits on the same desk as us. Now, these people are not going to pass on to the higher authorities what is bothering you. They are going to pass on what they want to or what they think it is. So now you have more enemies. So when it comes to rumination, you do ruminate, but ruminate about thinking of a solution and going and talking to people in your professional sphere, not by passing it on to people who cannot solve your problem, because that leads to more problems in the work sphere. When it comes to men, generally, I have observed, they tend to turn their regret inwards. Everybody makes mistakes, so what's a big deal about it? They move on. Women turn it inwards because they feel the problem stems from them and blaming themselves and dissecting their own mistakes. The moment we stop doing that, that is where we will start moving forward. So let go. If you see the child on the monkey bars, if he will not leave the bar behind him, he will not be able to move forward. So that is one thing about ruminating. And we come to the next topic with Sir again.
We have all heard about delegation. Yes, as team leaders, you keep delegating things, tasks, activities to your staff members or whosoever is reporting to you. Delegation, everybody is known about it. But there's something called reverse delegation. This is a very interesting thing, the reverse delegation. So let me try to decipher that for you people. Although most of you must have come to know, must have known about this, I'm just trying to explain it. What is this reverse delegation? And what are these monkeys? Now, do you often find yourself in a situation like this? आपका जो working desk है, your working desk, overworked, overwhelmed by desk full of problems, always short of time, overstretched, harried. Every 10 seconds somebody is coming, I need this help from you, I need this problem to be solved. Do you find yourself in a situation like this? Let me get your thumbs up. Whoever amongst you finds yourself with this. Okay, Radhika, yes. I can't see many faces, at least in the chat boxes. They can just give me a thumbs up. Overworked, you don't have really time to breathe. Desk full of papers. This task is to be done. These deadlines are to be met. These timelines are to be met. And you are overstretched. After all, there are only 24 hours in a day. How much time you can spend on the workplace? And then if you have to spend some extra time on the workplace, that means you are borrowing that time from your personal time. Is it right? Okay. Now, when you are faced with this situation, do you come out with these? Do you routinely say these things? I will look into this and revert. Leave it to me. I will call you. Yes, to tasks and jobs which ordinarily you should not be doing. Somebody else should have been doing it, but you end up doing it yourself. Lend your ear to the chronic complainers. There are many in all setups. We will discuss it. Are you routinely saying these things? Inadvertently. This has become a part of your daily routine. A subordinate comes with a problem and says, okay, leave it to me. A subordinate wants to discuss something with you. We'll discuss it. I will call you. Things like that. You're doing it. Inadvertently, you're doing it. After all, you are the in charge, you are the team leader, you're doing it, okay? And you get a feeling that your staff always needs something from you. They are constantly interrupting you, coming with newer requests. Can I have a minute, ma'am? I have a problem to discuss with you. Stuff like that. Now you're going to hang off it. What is happening? Your problem is monkeys. Now that's a very interesting thing. Your problem is, if you are having this problem, then your problem is monkeys. I will tell you, I will demonstrate it, how it is. Your problem is monkeys. We'll do a small role play. Unfortunately, this medium does not offer much scope in terms of this. Now, this is monkey. This monkey is nothing but my direct responsibility, my job, what I'm supposed to carry out on that chair. This is my direct responsibility. These monkeys are firmly perched up on my shoulder. She is my subordinate. This is her monkey. This is her role and responsibility which she is supposed to carry out. Now, this monkey is presently on her shoulder, right? Firmly stitched there. I get a call from head office or from my senior that come urgently for a meeting. I take my pen and pad and leave my chamber and I pass through the hallway where my staff is sitting, and suddenly one of my direct reportees interrupts me. Now the dialogue goes like this.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, we have a problem, sir.
No. See, I am going for a meeting, immediate meeting. We either you have a problem or I have a problem. We cannot have a problem.
Sir, honestly, yeah, I have a problem, sir. You asked me to ring up these clients, and you know,
Look,
they are not
I
listening to me, sir.
am
I
getting
really need your
late
help,
for the
sir.
meeting. I am getting late for the meeting. Shoot, quickly.
Sir, you gave me a list of clients that I was supposed to call up. Sir, they are not listening to me. They are not happy with what we are offering them. These vendors will go to some other company, sir. I think they want to speak to somebody who's senior, right? Sir, could you please look into it? Who should we contact? What should we do? Sir, I am in a quandary. I just don't know how.
Now, this was a small exchange. She said it will just take a 1 minute or two minutes. And when this exchange ended, it was 25 minutes. Not here, say in that metaphorical situation. It ended, it went. And during those 25 minutes, my mind was for the meeting because my boss was calling. I was not able to grasp whatever she was trying to tell about her problem. And what effectively was happening is, then I say one of those things. Okay, leave it to me. I will call you. And effectively, what I have done, I have taken the monkey off my subordinate's back, and that monkey has landed up on my back, and my subordinate has gone back to her seat, 25 kgs lighter, and I am carrying now two monkeys, one of my own and one of my subordinate. When I said, okay, I will call you back, leave it to me. This monkey is nothing but the next step on the job. Now, what will happen? I am now busy with so many things, and next morning, this subordinate peeps into my chamber and says, sir, have you seen that? What about that problem? Oh, sorry, I just couldn't find time. I was doing something else. Okay, I will call you. Now, effectively, what has happened? I have become her subordinate and she has become the supervisor. Now she is supervising my work, a problem which she should have ordinarily dealt at her own place, but she has effectively pushed that problem to me. And now I am doing, apart from my own job, I'm doing her job also. This is reverse delegation. Please don't acquire your subordinates' monkeys. Keep the monkeys at their own place. And this can be done when you change your responses. Now, let me tell me how. When this thing happened, I should have immediately put a stop. Sorry, This time I do not register anything. Come with the problem tomorrow morning. Then we will discuss it in my chamber. Now the monkey stays with her. She comes to my chamber tomorrow morning. Then I tell her, look, I will not listen to the problem only. Come with your set of recommendations also. How you propose to solve that problem? I am again pushing the monkey back to her. And she goes back to see it. Now she has to give the recommendations. Now she prepares a recommendation. Suppose it's a big problem. She makes a recommendation of 9 pages and she comes next day. Sir, I have made the recommendations. These are here. Sorry, don't leave it on my table. Just read them out to me. It takes you less time in understanding things when somebody is reading it out rather than you studying yourself. So keep the monkeys in their original position. Don't get those monkeys on your backs. This is what effectively is reverse delegation. We are pleasers. We don't want to hurt somebody's feeling. We don't want to be seen as rude and stuff like that. It doesn't work. You will end up doing more and more work of your supervisors. In the process, what is happening is that you are losing out on your me time. Next thing I've given the source of many conflicts, misunderstandings, heartburns, rumors in official sphere can be traced to the assumptions people make. We all make assumptions. We don't have the full information. We don't know the full picture. Yet, based upon our past experiences, we make assumptions about people. But this leads to a lot of conflicts, misunderstandings, and this. Now, there's a small exercise we will do with you. There was a young man who was very thirsty. On a Sunday afternoon, he was walking down a street. He was frantically searching for some kiosk where he could get a bottle of water. But unfortunately, being Sunday, all the shops were closed. And he was very thirsty. Now, he was walking down that street and he found a tree and he stood against that. He was desperate for thirst. And across the street, there was a high-story building. And from the first floor of that building, a head popped up and one person opened the window and he was looking outside. His gaze, he saw this young man across the street. He was seeing his disheveled condition. He indicated with his hands, "Are you thirsty?" The young man said, "Yes." Then he indicated with hand, "You come to the building door. I will get you something." He indicated with his hand. Now, what is your first opinion about that person who was on the first floor? What is your first opinion? The person who said, you are thirsty, I will get you something, come to the entrance of the building. What is your first opinion? About that person? Yes?
Anybody can speak up as well.
You can speak as well. What is your first opinion about that person? Are you able to hear us? Yeah, what is your first opinion about that person? No, this is not some UPSC exam. You can say whatever is coming to your mind. What is your first opinion about that person on the first floor? Yes? Can I have some response? Because this is an interactive thing. Unless I have a response from you, I will not be holding you to those opinions. Sorry, I will not do that. But let me have your opinion. What is your first opinion? We have to be slightly quick about it. We have 2 modules to cover, although 15 minutes we have started late. Now, the first opinion is, everybody will have a positive opinion about it. Is that right? Some positive opinion. He is a very good man. He saw this thirsty. He was, he was thirsty and he indicated him to come to the entrance of the building. So that's a very positive opinion you make about that person. Is that right or wrong? Right? Now the young man crosses the street, comes to the kind person. Yes, I got one this thing. Yeah, he was compassionate, kind person. Absolutely, no doubt about it. Now the young man crossed the street, needing help, and was waiting for someone to help. Excellent, Vandana ji. Right? What happened? He crossed the street. The young man crossed the street and went to the entrance of building. 15 minutes elapsed. Nobody opened the door, and he was simply waiting there. Now, what is your opinion about that first floor person? The young man crossed the street. He waited at the entrance of the building, but no door opened. So now, what is your opinion about that first floor person? Your second opinion. This will be your second opinion.
Callous.
He might be in a problem, callous, some negative feeling. Excellent. Anything else? Any response? Some more responses. First response, first opinion was very positive about that person. The second has become negative because for 15 minutes, the entrance of the gate of the building did not open. But exactly after 15 minutes, the first floor person comes out with a laminate in his hand. He said, sorry, I was late. Seeing your condition, I thought simple water will not suffice. So I prepared a laminate for you that will quench your thirst properly. Now, what is your third opinion about that person now? What is your third opinion? Positive and very caring. Doubt arises. Okay, you are still doubtful. Positive. Okay, this was the third opinion. So he hands over the lemonade to the thirsty young man. He takes the first sip. It doesn't have neither salt nor sugar, and he has a grimace on his face. The person who brought him the lemonade, he could sense that. And what is your fourth opinion about him? About the person? Na chini thi usme, na namak tha lemonade mein. And he could see the discomfiture of the young man. What is your fourth opinion about that first floor person? Fourth opinion, quickly. We don't have all the time in the world. Quickly. Thoughtful. Is he trying to make fun? Confused? Excellent. Maybe he forgot to put it in. Right? Doubtful about his intentions. Excellent. Okay. Right. Now, seeing the discomfiture on the face of the young man, the person took out a sachet of salt and sachet of sugar from his pocket. He said, nowadays people have lots of problems of blood pressure and sugar. That is why I did not mix any of these things into. Do you like sugar in this lemonade or salt in the lemonade? He said, I like sugar in the lemonade. So he hands over the sugar pouch to him. He mixes it in the lemonade and drinks it. What is your fifth opinion about this person now? Extra thoughtful. Fifth opinion, fantastic. Patience is to be maintained. Now, in an interaction which barely lasted half an hour, all of us have changed opinion 5 times depending upon what was presented before us. We kept on changing our opinions one after the other when the events unfolded before us. Now you ask yourself, are we too quick in framing opinions about people with whom we have limited interaction? They can be our external stakeholders, a customer, a vendor, or for that matter, some employee from other vertical. Are we too quick? See, this leads to lot of problems. When we make assumptions about people, it leads to a lot of problems at workplace. We must hold on to our opinions till such time all the facts come to surface. And if it is not possible that always all the things will come to the surface, it's better in that case to hold back your opinions. That will save a lot of problems. And we have a small example of a rabbi and a young man, and the young man has a lot of problems. They became friends. The rabbi and a young man became friends, and they would often meet on Saturdays after the working hours, and they will chit chat about what was happening in the neighborhood and stuff like that. And one day the rabbi asked the young man, "Why don't you get married?" The young man told the rabbi that the girl I like, my mother doesn't like. He said, the girl I like, my mother doesn't like. My mother wants a girl who is exactly like her in physical appearance and in all the areas in which she behaves. So the conversation ended there. After 4 months, the rabbi again asked the young man, "So have you been able to find the girl?" He said, "Yes, I have found the girl who is exactly like my mother and who is exactly in behavior like my mother." Then the rabbi said, "Then there should not be any problem." He said, "No, now my father doesn't like her." See, problems will never go away. They merely get exchanged. They either get upgraded or downgraded. Problems will always be there. So hold back your assumptions, hold back your views. The things are not clearer. I hope I have been able to make myself clear on that. Here we finish the first module. Now we come to the second module. This is about time management.
I hope you can see the new slides. Welcome back. I hope you can see. Can I get a thumbs up?
Yes.
Okay. So now we go on with our second module over here, which is time management. When it comes to women, we are on some warrior smoothie. The whole world believes that we drink some warrior smoothie in the morning, and all these are the roles that we can don during the day and do them to perfectionism. Now, time management, especially for women, is like a battle against two major things. It is not that how much can you put away in a day, how fast you can work, how beautifully or how excellently you can work. It is basically a battle between what we do versus what we can do. What we do versus what we can do. Let us see how. How many of you as professionals have come across situations where we are forever complaining that we do not get enough time to do things that we want to do? How many of you? In the chat box, please. How many of you come across this situation? Me, Amrita, Pooja, Radhika, count Mona also as another me, right? But generally, we are never busy enough to tell how busy we are. It happens to us all the time. But why does something like this happen? We can stretch any time of the day, but we can never stretch the day. So the day is going to be the same 24 hours. We need to understand what are our priorities and how we can fit in all that we want to do into our day. Let us see how we can do that. Yes, most of us have already claimed that we are one of those. Now, you know what? How we can all get started? We can all get started by making a list of things that we do every day. Every day, the things that you do, whether they are innate tasks or whether this is your professional life or whether they are your personal life. Everything that you do during the day. And the next step you do is that after that, everything that you perform, you give it a time slot. You give it a time slot. So this is what I do for half an hour. This is what takes 8 hours on my desk. This is what happens here. This is what happens there. This will give you a fair idea of where your time is being spent. Because generally we feel we do a whole lot of things and our mind is filled up with all the things that we have to do. But we do not really know how much time we are spending everywhere. So at least first of all, start making a list. So we start at a very organic level over here. We start making a list. Now in this list, there are many items which are basically time squanderers. They basically lend no positivity. They lend no value to our entire day. Anything from social media, anything to, just chatting uselessly on the phone, anything on watching, anything on Netflix, and thinking that I need that half an hour extra in the day, but that half an hour extra is going here. In these time squanderers, be it social media, be it television, be it anything which is basically not adding any value, but you are doing it because it has become part of your habit. This is extremely distracting and nibbles at your time and productivity. At any such interruption takes away roughly 15 to 20 minutes before you can go back to the task on hand. If I'm talking to you and suddenly my phone pings, now I'm in a flow when I'm talking to you, but suddenly if my phone pings, my attention is distracted to what somebody else wants from me. And it will take a considerable amount of time for me to come back and, restitch the thread of conversation with all of you. Something as little as that. So even the tiniest of distractions are basically nibbling at our time or even gnawing at our time. If you snooze one less time during the day, take one less coffee break, one less Netflix series at night, and you sum up that time, you will feel that this was exactly the time that you needed to finish the unfinished task every day. This is what happens to us. We fail to realize how much of time we are squandering away. When it comes to social media, it has put us in a forever loser bracket mode, because technology is great. It is only because of technology that we are able to speak to you. But in a room of two, it is like a third person in the room. It is like our fifth limb. Yesterday, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp was down because of a technical outage. Most of the world felt that, some sort of apocalypse has taken place, pralay aa gayi hai, that they are not able to interact with people. And what will happen to all those, app candy stores we meet on the digital highway? So social media has pushed us into forever loser bracket. There are people who are explaining changing of a bulb like this. Just read the slide. Changing of the bulb is something to be done like this. So it makes us wonder, what am I doing in life? They are projecting themselves as the next best thing after the invention of fire and wheel, and I am not even taking a single holiday. So what's happening? This is where we are squandering our time. Ruminating, going back to ruminating, chewing the cud. Oh, look at their holiday photographs. They're having the time of their lives. They're doing such great work. What am I doing? Now you're wasting your time thinking about something which may not be even true. Now, let us see how women can best understand where they're spending their time and what all they're supposed to do in the given time that they have. There was a president of the United States known as Eisenhower. He had an Eisenhower matrix. He said that there's a difference between things that are urgent, things that are important, things that are urgent and important, things that are important but not urgent, things that are urgent but not important, and things that are neither urgent nor important. But girls, have you ever wondered that if there is a difference between things that are the word urgent and the word important? What is the difference? Yes, Pooja, so do we. What is the difference between the urgent and important? Anybody? Urgent is for others, important is for ourselves. Ma'am, if I just may put it slightly differently, you are right, you're sort of getting there. But the way we wanted to project the word urgent and important, and the way it should be projected is, urgent is something which fits within the time bracket. It is time centric. That means I have to do it right now. Whereas when it comes to the word important, it is need centric. That means it needs to be done. So something which is urgent, that means it needs to be done right now. So in case there's a fire in the house, you need to switch on the fire extinguisher straight away. It is urgent. You do it right now. You can't delay it. So urgent and important, do it right now. Something which is important, it is very important for me to send out an invoice to a certain organization I worked with yesterday, but I must do it today before they break for holidays tomorrow. So it is important. I planned for it. It is also not urgent. That means it needn't be done right now, but it is important for me to do it today. So that is the second one. I delay it. I plan for it at 6 o'clock after I finish this workshop. Then the third one is, it is urgent. It needs to be done right now, but I cannot do two urgent things at one time. So I delegate responsibility to somebody else. It is also very urgent, but not for me to do it straight away. Delegate that responsibility, the number 3. And then there is the number 4, neither urgent nor important. Please dump it. Forget about it. It is like technology, which we thought was a useful servant, but has turned into a dangerous master. It needn't be done. You don't have to reply to every Shubh Shanivar, every Aapka Din Mangalmay Ho right now. You needn't. So if you do it, the urgent and important, there are the 4 Ds. Delayed, urgent, but not important, not urgent, but important. Delegated, urgent, but not important for you to do it straight away. Dump it. You know what you need to dump. So get your priorities right. Learn the power of saying no to so many things that you are filling other people's calendars with. We lend ourselves out to other people. So learn the power of saying no. Till women will not learn to say no, they will never be able to manage everything that they want to do. When we are lending ourselves out to other people, we are selling our time out to other people. This is the worst and the most expensive deal we are making. Think about it. Everybody knows about mythology and how Hanumanji went to get the Sanjeevani booty. When Lakshman fainted, he went to Dronagiri Parvat and he needed to find the Sanjeevani booty. And it was very urgent for him to go because the Parvat was very far away. So he flew. It was urgent and important for him to reach the Parvat, right? But it was not urgent, but important for him to find the booty. Now he did not know where to find the booty. So he planned for it that I must pick up the Parvat and take it back to the Rajvaidya, to the chief physician, to Susheshan, so that he finds a booty. So he picks up the Parvat. It is important, but not urgent for him to find it. So he takes it. Now the next level was, it was urgent that the booty should be found, but not by Hanuman. So Susheshan does it. So he delegated the responsibility to him. And what was not urgent, not important, was for Hanuman to go around the whole Dronagiri Parvat and find the booty himself. So that was very smart example of time management and task prioritization. Had he not done it, Lakshman would have died. And task prioritization, when it comes to us, it becomes very difficult for people to do 2 things. To think about what their priorities are and then to prioritize. Now, we will be doing a very quick activity with you, and please focus on the camera, because being an online medium, it is not easy for us to showcase everything in its clarity, but we will try to do it. But in the chat box, you've got to tell me whether you can see everything or not. Can everybody see this jar that I have here? Yes or no? This is about task prioritization.
Yes.
Yes, you can. Okay. I have these rocks here, right? All of them are roughly the same size. And I have a jar full of sand. and I have a jar full of pebbles, right? Now I have this jar over here. In this jar, what do? I start putting these large rocks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is my jar full? Is my jar full?
No.
It is not full. Okay. Now I have these pebbles here. I'm going to fill this jar with the pebbles. Is my jar full?
No.
No. It still has space?
Yes.
Okay. Now I have sand. Now I fill this jar with the sand. Is my jar almost full?
Almost, but not full.
Not.
Yeah. It still has space, right? Okay. Now I have another jar, and we are not calling you. It is the same jar, right? It's the same jar. Now in this jar, what I do is that first I put in the pebbles. Earlier, what did I do? I put in the big rocks. Now I put in the pebbles, which was the step 2. I had step 1, the big rocks. The 2 was the pebbles, and 3 was the sand. Now I'm starting with step 2. My jar is full?
No.
No.
It's not full. Now the step 3 was the sand. Now I put in the sand. Is my jar full?
No.
It is still not full. Okay. Now I'm going to put in the rocks. 1, 2, 3. I put 4 rocks earlier, girls. What is happening? I'm trying to fit in the 4 rocks. Am I able to?
No.
I'm not able to do that. What is the derivation? What is the takeaway? They were the same jars. If you see both the jars, the content is exactly same. The size of the bottles that I used earlier and all is exactly same. So what happened now? What happened now?
Technique of the work.
The technique of
Prioritization
the
is
work.
important.
Yes, prioritization is very important. So what were these big rocks? According to me, they were a metaphorical reference for the most important things we are supposed to do during the day, the urgent and the important ones. When it came to the pebbles, they were also the tasks that were important, but not to be done straight away. And what was the sand? Sand was the not urgent and the not important ones, frivolous activities. Frivolous activities, thinking about things, be it even ruminating, be it getting angry about things which are of no use to us, talking about other people, spreading rumors, or doing things which are of no value, adding no value to our lives. But in the first case, I did the most important things first, then the most urgent and important things first. In the second one, the pebbles were a metaphorical reference for the things which are also important. I did them next. And if my jar still had space, I added the sand to it. I'm not saying that we don't need to let our hair down. We do. If the jar has space, and then also I had some time left. But in case I'm filling my jar with frivolous activities, the jar is a symbol for the 24 hours of the day. So if I'm filling my time with smaller issues, the sand first, I will miss out on the important issues, the big rocks. So learn to prioritize. If you are not prioritizing, we are not getting anywhere. Generally, people say that we expect to be evaluated on the efforts that we are putting into doing something. Sir, मैंने किया तो था सब कुछ. Rocks भी डाले, pebbles भी डाले, sand भी डाला, but the results were not the same. Well, people are looking at the results. People are not looking at the efforts you are putting in. Even when we were in school, we can't tell the teacher that I studied for 4 hours last night. The teacher would end up and saying, still you have a 4 on 10. I want results. Results come with prioritization. And these priorities in our lives keep shifting from stage to stage, from time to time. What we do, let us see what we do. There are 4 kinds of people. The perfectionists, the slobs, the doers, and the time managers. Who do you think are the best people at work? Who do you think are the best people at work? Anyone? Who are the best people at work? The time managers.
Time managers. Yeah.
Time managers,
Yes.
right? But what do we aspire to be? Great. How many of you aspire to be perfectionists? Pooja says perfectionists. Pooja, count me in as well. Most of us want to manage our time well, but we also aspire to be perfectionists. And what kind of people suffer the most? Which practice hurts us the most? The practice that hurts us the most is the perfectionist. The urge to be perfect in everything is the most hurtful urge that we nurse. Something like this. This is what we want to do with our daily lives. Aim it right. Even if it means bending backwards in a way that it might even break your back. We are forever the pleaser at home, backed by the guilt. I'm not able to do this. I'm not able to do that. These were the demands that were made to me at the office. I could not do it because there were responsibilities at home. There were demands made at home and I could not do because there was a pending job from the office. And then there is social media, which is intensifying our pressure that other people have very perfect lives and I don't. So these pleasers at home, what is happening with them? They are the ones who are something like this. This is the way the world is controlling us. This is the way the world controls us. We really become like the monkeys and the world outside is like the Madari. And that's what I'm saying. It's a very expensive deal. If we keep filling our calendar with other people's priorities. And this is what perfectionists do. But the happiest people are the slobs because they are blissfully aimless in life, blissfully aimless. They have no priorities. But perfectionists are the ones who are constantly lending themselves out to others and want to do everything with perfection, are the ones who end up doing practically nothing. The reason is, for one, they keep looking for the perfect time to do things. Then they take longer to do the same work which is done by other people, by time managers, because they want to do it very perfectly. That is why they take a lot more time than other people do. So don't be a perfectionist. It really doesn't get us anywhere. See how many things you're able to do and time yourself. See the amount of time it takes to do those things and say, I have to work only for 5 hours and the things that I'm supposed to do is 20 things. The moment we say I have to do 20 things, it gets intimidating. The moment you say 5 hours of work, it makes you understand that you have 19 hours at your disposal and work gets done. So prioritize.
Yeah, she talked about the prioritization and how we fill in our day with important and urgent tasks. Now, there is one more aspect, that is multitasking. Women are very good at multitasking, as they claim. Absolutely, there is no doubt on that. They are very good at multitasking, but there is a catch there. Now, I'll be showing you a slide for a very brief moment. You have to tell me 5 seconds precisely, and you have to tell me how many red stars you have. You count the red stars in that slide. Here I go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
How many red stars were there in that? 17. Okay. Any other answer? 20. Okay. Any other answer? 22. Renu Jain. Excellent. Any other answer? 21. Right. 20. Excellent. I couldn't count. Okay. No problem. Now, the counting starts now. Count the red stars.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
How many in the second slide? How many red stars you could count? 21, 22, 22. Okay. Now I'm going to show you the third slide.
Red stars.
Red
1,
stars.
2, 3, 4, 5.
How many red stars were there in the third slide? Many. That's a wonderful answer. 50. Excellent.
Many.
Okay. Now in this, unfortunately, we are pressed for time, so that's why we are rushing through. We would have liked to have a more, longer time to deliver this thing, but nevertheless, there were exactly 22 stars in all the three slides. It was easier for you to count in the first slide because the degree of difficulty was less there, because there were red and blue stars only in that slide, and it was much easier for you. I increased the degree of difficulty in the second slide. I put in more blue stars there so that the scene became slightly crowded. So it became increasingly difficult for you to count as the degree of difficulty of the task increased. And in the third, I put some additional green stars also, and it made all the more difficult for you to count the stars. Now I am leading to this multitasking. Look at this graph. As the degree of difficulty increases in the task, the multitasking does not help. Any task which needs your 100% attention, and I am sure you are very responsible people holding responsible positions, there must be many critical tasks which are landing up on your table. And if you don't give your 100% attention to those tasks, then you are likely to make a lot of mistakes and the quality of your output will go down. So multitasking is fine so long as each task does not require your 100% attention. The tasks which require your 100% attention, please don't multitask there. This is called the law of excluded alternative. You may have 4 activities to perform, but the one which is presently you are concentrating on, this is a very urgent and important task. Give your 100% attention. It does not, this is a planned neglect of balance 3 tasks. It is not that you don't want to do them, but presently this needs your 100% attention. That is why you are concentrating on this task, right? You call it planned neglect. Now, when we are talking about this prioritization, there's a very important principle which is known as the Pareto principle. That is 20-80 principle. 20% of your activities that you perform in a day give you 80% output. Remember your school and college days when the teacher would tell us, look, this is the book, it has 13 chapters. Out of 13 chapters, please concentrate on chapter 3, 5, and 9, because 80% of the questions will come from these chapters. They would tell us there. Likewise, if you see your activities, you know for sure that if I do these 20% activities, they will give me 80% output. So in the time allotted, I must devote 80% of my time on these 20 activities so that I get 80% output, not the other way around. Is that right? You see, you open your cupboard. When you open your cupboard, you will see that over a period of time, it is only the 20% of clothes that you are wearing, and rest 80% clothes you are not wearing most of the time. So this is where you are applying the Pareto principle. You apply the same Pareto principle at work also. That is the 80-20 rule. Otherwise, if you are devoting your time on 80% activities which are giving you 20% output, that means it is not a right prioritization and you're not using your time effectively. And there is one more thing. When you are doing a very critical and important task, there is something called fog index. which, confronts you. Suppose you are driving your car in a fog. What will you do? It is dense fog. As in northern India, we come across this dense fog in winters. It's dense fog, and you are driving a car. What will you do? What precautions you will take? Let me get your comments. Yes. Quickly, we don't have all the time. What will you do? You are driving a car in dense fog. We focus, slow down, excellent. Any other point? Anti-fog lights and slow speed, total concentration, excellent. Blinkers on, absolutely wonderful. Right. Very spot on. The answers are use fog lights, go slow, stop and clear your screen. That's excellent. Why do you do that? Because you're not able to see things clearly. Now, when you are doing a very critical and important task, you see, when you are concentrating, it has been seen that for 15 minutes, your concentration is there. After 15 minutes, your mind starts, wandering here and there. That is the point where you should immediately stop and put a marker there that up to this point, whatever I was doing it with full concentration. Then I put a stop there. And once I again recoup after 5-10 minutes, then again I start from there. Otherwise, you will not be able to focus for a very longer period. In fact, the rest period that you are, incorporating in your task doing is a part of your time only. Don't consider it as a waste of time. And even if you think there's a deadline, and even if I am tired, I must go on. Please, it's a disaster. Your output will go down and you will miss out on very important things. When I was talking about the women, I will not comment on that. Of course, they have a struggle at hand. Their yardstick is totally different. Their performance, how it is measured, is entirely different. I don't want to go in detail about this. The picture speaks a volumes about that. So we finished the second module. Since we started 15 minutes late, we'll cover the next module in next 15 minutes. Please bear with us. Now, as I told you, when this COVID came, before COVID, we were doing all offline, workshops. When this COVID came, this new medium was there for people like me having gray hair. It was nothing short of disaster. But for young people like them, they took to this new medium like as the duck takes to the water. So for persons like me, how the communication problems erupted when I started using this medium. Let us have a look at this video.
Okay, double click on my computer. I can see your computer. No. Click on my computer on your computer. How can I click on your computer from my computer? There is an icon labeled my computer on your computer. Double click it. What the hell? What is your computer doing on my computer? Double click on your computer. Which icon do I have to click? My computer. Tell me, where do you live? I go to your house to click on your computer. Oh my God. Okay, double.
You see, in this module, we talk about communication paradigm. How often we have seen our proposals don't get accepted by the powers that be. Our prospects don't buy into our proposition despite our best effort. We face non-compliance from our reportees. Our messages don't stick. Do we come across such situations in our work life? People don't understand me. Do we come across these situations in our work life? Children think parents don't understand them. Parents think children don't understand them. Husband thinks the wife doesn't understand her. Wife thinks the husband doesn't understand her. Why does it happen? Why does it happen? I guess it boils down to two things at the end of the day. How it is said and what part of it is understood. How it is said and what part of it is understood. I think that's important in communication. We normally communicate only when we have a need. We communicate only when we have a need. Let us understand that thing very clearly. We communicate if we have a need to inform someone, to reform someone, to seek information, render advice, or engage with people. And we have a need, that's why we communicate. Now, for communication to be effective, we need to ensure that the need of the receiver is also stands fulfilled. If the need of the receiver is not fulfilled, he remains a passive in the communication process. How we communicate to our children, we keep shouting, do this, do that. Their need is not fulfilled by this communication. It is only then when we engage them and tell them by doing this, this is the likely reward or this is the likely praising you are going to get. Only then their need is addressed. Then this communication becomes a two-way process. We are going to do a small activity, and this lady over there has a toothache, and I am just communicating with her. Look, Mona, our country has been able to, overcome the deficiencies in the phase 2 of COVID. I hope things will stay like that.
I have a toothache.
You see what is happening in Afghanistan. There is a lot of bloodshed going on.
I have a toothache.
There has been a problem lately in the northeast where a lot of insurgency has again come up.
I have a toothache, I said.
You see, this year the monsoon has been pretty deficient.
I have a toothache.
Now this dialogue is going on. Now please tell me what you take out from this dialogue.
Irrelevance. There's no proper communication.
No proper communication. No. My communication was okay, but that was my need of informing her. But she was having headache. That was her need. If I had addressed her need, probably she would have done the two-way communication. If I had told her, oh, you have toothache, what is the problem? Which tooth is aching? We are not on the same page. That is what happens. You make a circular, pass it down the line to your staff, and you have conceived that thing in your mind at your level of thinking, and you assume that the person down below has also the same level of understanding of what you are thinking. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen like that. Unless and until we don't come down to their level, only then they understand your communication. Otherwise, they will not understand your communication. People whom we are talking to are more interested in what is their need rather than what you are trying to tell them. So let me tell you one more thing. 90% of all our communication is preparing the mind of the receiver. 90% of the communication is only preparing the mind of the other person. Only 10% of our communication is the final message. Now, prospects have come into your organization. You have given a fantastic presentation to them, and you think that you have convinced them good enough, but it does not materialize into order. So what is happening is that you have not prepared their mind sufficiently so that they accept your proposition. You go to a bank manager, you are an entrepreneur, you want a loan of 25 crores. You tell the bank manager, I need a loan of 25 crores. Is he going to open the drawer? Look, gentlemen or lady, these are 25 crores, take them. Doesn't happen. 90% of communication is preparing the mind of the receiver, and only 10% is the final message that you want from the receiver.
Okay, so ladies, now we're coming to the last part of our presentation, but not before we do a little exercise with all of you. It's a very interesting exercise. What I'm going to do, I'm going to list out a list to you, a sequence of things to you, and then I'm going to ask you a few questions. So, okay, so my list goes something like this. It goes like ham, butter, cheese, tomato ketchup, toaster, bread, tomatoes, cucumber, ice lettuce, parsley, and sage. So what were you thinking, ladies, when I said that?
Sandwich.
Ma'am, Uma ma'am thought I'm talking about a sandwich. Anybody else? Sujita, a sandwich. Yes, thank you. Anybody else? Most of the time, people think that we are talking about breakfast. Okay, Renu, breakfast or sandwich. Now, why did something like that happen? Uma ma'am, I have a question for you. When I was listing this entire sequence to you, at what point did your mind wander to a sandwich?
The moment I had seen bread slice and
the moment you saw the bread slice and you saw me listing cheese and butter and toaster and stuff like that. Okay, ma'am, you are thinking of a sandwich, but what if I was just implying about the things that have gone bad in my fridge? Or maybe I was looking at my grocery list, or these are the things that we require immediately. Any such thing, right? But everybody's mind, it's not only you, mama, everybody's mind wanders to a sandwich. Why? Because what happens to most of us, that when people are talking to us, and happens more so to women because our mind is in so many places, both at home as well as office, that your mind starts wandering, and we are hearing things, but we are not consciously listening. So when we are not consciously listening, it is selective listening, or we say we are squinting from our ears. People squint from their eyes, but squinting from their ears because the mind starts wandering. Now, where does this mind go? Where does this mind go? This mind goes towards three major questions, which we will be coming to those major questions. But first of all, let us understand that what is happening to us when our mind starts wandering. When we have selective listening, it leads to the wrong response. People will say breakfast, they will say sandwich, they will say anything. People say 1,000 different things, but they will the response will be wrong. And what happens generally in life, even in a professional life, when we do not listen to people around us, it is leading to wrong responses, and we end up being poor speakers as well. That is why sometimes people end up saying that women are not very articulate speakers. Mind goes all over the place. So speaker saying something like this, but this is the listener's response, the tiny slice. It is basically a quarter. And what is happening during selective listening? When we are just hearing the noise, there are three things that are going on in our mind. What do I agree on? What can I disagree on? And what will I say in response to this? So halfway through the list, everybody start thinking about, in this informal exercise, what will I say in response to this? But in the professional sphere, mind goes into what am I going to agree on? What am I going to disagree on? And what am I going to answer? And we don't listen to the entire thing, and the responses are wrong. We generally listen to just reply. But if we want to understand something, what the other person has told us, we must ask questions and be present in the situation. And this requires effort. You know, amongst the 4 core skills that people have, reading, listening, writing, and speaking, listening is the only core skill which is not taught in any educational institute, because it requires effort. Until we do not make the effort to do anything, it doesn't work. A young movie star goes to a gym. He goes to a gym. He has a chauffeur. He has a fancy car who parks the chauffeur parks the car for him. He has a man Friday who carries his towels and his protein shake for him. He also has a private gym instructor inside the gym who knows the pros and cons of his body and what muscles he need to work on. But in case this movie star wants a six-pack abs, he needs to do the push-ups himself. No matter how many benefits are provided to you, you need to make an effort in case you need to work better. Then when it comes to women, this is one of my favorite ones. We have to understand, when do we stop to speak? There's a small story of a lion and a donkey. There was a donkey and another animal, a tiger. They got into an argument with each other. The argument was, what is the color of the sky? So the tiger said that the color of the sky is blue during the day and black at night. The donkey said, no, the color of the sky is green. So the tiger and the donkey got into a huge argument, and finally they decided they should go to the king of the jungle, to the lion, and ask him as to who's right and who's wrong. So they go to the lion and say, the tiger says that I told him it's blue during the day and black at night, but this donkey is adamant and he says that it is black, it is green all during the day and night. So, sir, who's right? So the lion said, so I am going to punish the one who says who is given the wrong answer. The tiger was very happy because he knew he was giving the right answer. So the lion told his followers that please put the tiger in a cage. He is in the wrong. He is the culprit. The tiger was flabbergasted. He was shocked. He said, why me in the cage? I gave the right answer. So the lion said, the one who is arguing in the donkey, there's no bigger fool than him. We women come across these donkeys in a workplace all the time. There are people out there who are hell-bent upon telling you that you cannot do certain set of things. There are people who are body shaming you. There are people who are pointing out to the flaws that don't exist just because you are a woman. These donkeys, silence is golden. So arguing with a fool only proves that there are two. So keep quiet there. You know, this is an unusual situation when somebody is dealing like that with you. And therefore, if you speak, it will be an impaired decision when it comes to you. Most of the time, people are provoking women to invoke some sort of reaction from them. And that is where we give, if we react, we give a remote control in their hands. Snatch the remote control back from these people who try to provoke you. At this time, silence is always golden. Spreading rumors is another thing. People say what they want to say about you and not what they must say. Rumors also spread. Sometimes when women withhold lots of information, they don't want to give out all the information because they feel that the power is in their hands in case they withhold and don't tell them everything. So that is where also rumors arise. And when we are people who end up bad-mouthing somebody else in the workplace, as it is, women have a very bad reputation of doing so, which is wrong, Men do that too. But the saying that goes is, when Susie talks about Sally, it tells you more about Susie than Sally, because we get very creative when we do so. We have to make our communication very, very effective. In case something like that is happening, we have to take feedback. Feedback is very important. Don't just say things. If you've said something in the office sphere, always expand the picture and take the feedback. When you give feedback to somebody as a woman, please make sure that it is about a person's behavior and not the person. So if I'm talking to Radhika, I cannot say, Radhika, you did it wrong. I can always tell her, Radhika, I don't think so. I think the event could have been handled better, right? Not going. So be timely, be specific, be very cogent, and don't keep telling Radhika over and over again that things were going wrong at that point or that other point during anything for that matter. So feedback always has to be about the event and not the person. Always separate the issue and behavior from the person in case you want a peaceful working environment in the workplace. Because we are women, we are more sensitive. Our feedback is always about people and not the event. Generally, we end up saying, people don't like me, right? If someone doesn't like you, go talk to them. Go talk to them. But if no one likes you, talk to yourself. Something is going wrong. Something is going wrong at an intrinsic level, and that is what should be set right and nothing else. So the last bit, and then we are plugging out.
In our communication, unfortunately, we're running short of time. I'll just finish it here. In our communication, I mean, there is a belief in amongst many people that if we employ a very heavy language in our communication, it indicates our intellectual capabilities. Unfortunately, that is not true. Using words like boiling the ocean, deep dive, stuff like that, it really doesn't work. Keep it simple. The person who has to do the work on your instructions, if your instructions are simple, then he will be able to, discharge that thing for you. Otherwise, if he has to first find out from the dictionary what is the meaning of the word that you have employed while giving the directions, it loses its state. So we are ending our presentation here. We had to rush through a couple of slides we have not shown because of paucity of time. And this medium, as I told you, for a person like me, it is always difficult. So we leave the floor to all of you in case you have any questions regarding the things that we, shared with you. Please feel free to ask. Otherwise, we'll call it a day. Any question which comes to your mind?
It was truly an enlightening session, Mrs. Mona Verma and Mr. S. Hali. Managing time, empathetic communication, and overcoming the paradoxes can go a long way into polishing the diamonds that women are. Now, I'd like to invite Pooja Mitra to take up the question and answers.
Thank you so much, Radhika. Thank you so much for the session, Mr. Ali and Mrs. Mona. One question from me while we wait for others to type. You have spoken about ruminating. Now that we are aware of what ruminating is, how do we deal with it? Now that we are aware that, yes, when I become aware that, yes, I am ruminating, what is my next course of action that I should take?
Pooja ma'am, that's a wonderful question. You're going a step ahead and actually thinking about it, actually thinking about ruminating, right? So, once you've started ruminating about something, please think of the consequences. Think of where is it leading me? Is it leading me to a solution, or I'm just thinking about a problem? Most of the time we feel that when we keep thinking about a problem, the problem will go away by itself. Just talk about it. People come and tell us, talk about your problems. But do problems go away, or do they just evaporate when we talk about them? If you need to ruminate, in case you need to wrap it around your head time and time again, keep it in the loop, at least start thinking of a solution to that problem, and also see how much of time have you spent ruminating. So when it comes to time management, maybe rumination comes in not urgent and not important section. Just dump it. Think about where it can lead you. Can it lead to any results? Can it lead to any better consequences? And if I need to speak about it, who do I need to speak to regarding a solution to that problem? Take it out, vent it out, right? That is the next step. If it goes on in your head, it is occupying so much of space and this is not letting you think of a solution. So ruminate, but be solution centric.
I will just add one more thing to what Mona has said in response to this question. You see, anything is happening or anything is about to happen, not the way you want it, not the way you like it, and you are not able to accept it. It leads to one emotion, which is anger. You're not able to accept it.
Yes.
It leads to one emotion, which is anger, right? Now, anything which is considered a negative emotion, at least in the official sphere. Now, anything is happening or anything is about to happen, not the way you want it, but you are able to accept it. It leads to an emotion which is tolerance. Now, you have to figure out in your mind Now, anger, when anger built up is there, I think it will lead to a whole lot of emotions inside you. It will further push you down that rabbit hole of ruminating. But if you are able to accept it, then it leads to an emotion which is tolerance, which is a positive emotion. So when you change your response to a positive emotion, I think, as ma'am told you, you are likely to find a solution. Otherwise, if the anger has built up inside you, you are not able to give vent to your feelings. You will go down that rabbit hole and you will only think about that only. It will not lead to a solution.
Thank you so much, both of you. One last question, because I don't think there are any questions coming in. With regards to the story of the thirsty man, I just wanted to ask, sometimes during a business, when you're doing business, you do not have that much time to make a judgment, when you need to make some quick decisions and you need to go with your gut. So what do we do about that?
Rely on your intuition.
And we women have that strong.
You are very strong in your intuitions.
Yes.
Totally agree.
At that time, as I told you in my presentation also, it is not always the people with whom you are interacting day in and day out. You kind of know where they stand with respect to any topic that you are discussing with them, and you know fairly good. You have a fairly good idea about what they are, what are their beliefs, what is their behavior. But as you rightly said, if you come across a person in a business transaction, you're barely met for half an hour. Yes. Where do you rest your decision on? Then this is where your intuition comes. You have that sixth sense which immediately tells you whether I am going into right direction or wrong direction. Sometimes it may fail, but 90% of times it will help you. There is no other scientific solution available for such short exchanges.
And also, Pooja, just suddenly something came to my mind, a quote. Being a writer, the quote that came to my mind is, the one who angers you controls you. So the moment you are ruminating, you start ruminating and spending so much of time in your brain space regarding a particular person or their behavior, tells yourself, somebody is controlling me and I will not be controlled by them. My remote control should be in my head, in my hands. And you will give up rumination, because it will be a self-inflicted injury and nobody wants that.
Right.
Any more questions? You had a long day.
Yes, I think
your faces.
That's about it.
Painful to remain glued to the screens. I wish we get an opportunity to interact with you people off screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a lot of activities which kind of bring out these things to the surface, and there's a free flow of information which takes place. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you. I think we're done with our question and answer session. Radhika, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I'll
Uma would like to speak.
Yes, please go ahead.
So thank you so much. That's a wonderful session and it's very engaging. Actually, each module is like one session. I was thinking when it was going on, I think, we kept too many things into one session. I think, we should have gone for a series of sessions with one module in each session is what I thought. And there are so much to carry home. Thank you so much. And definitely we look forward for another interaction, maybe physically if possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam, you impose those conditions on us that we have to cover that also, and we have to comply with it.
I know. When I'm listening to that, I think, we should have gone only for one module at a time.
Okay. Not a problem, ma'am. Whenever you want us again, we will come up with a single topic and we will take it on for an hour and a half, which will be more insightful. And I guess it will give all of us time, to dwell on it further in all its depth. So a very warm note of thank you to Uma ma'am, to Radhika, to Pooja, and to everybody present over here. Everybody was present. We could see in the chat boxes the questions and the answers. And I think there is nothing more heartening and gratifying for any trainer that people ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you
very
so much. Thank you so much, Mrs. Mona Verma and Mr. Hali, for this very informative and, as somebody says, gripping workshop. And thank you, Uma and Radhika, for bringing us this session, which really sensitized us and made us aware of certain things, maybe some which we knew, some which we didn't. And thank you, past chairs, for your kind presence and unstinted support, the IT team, and mainly all the attendees for your, being so interactive with us. Thank you so much.
I'm going to give you a passing shot.
Yes, please
When
do.
you are attending sessions like this, the feelings remain, the content goes. So please make notes always. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was really an engaging session, and you've left us with a lot of questions to ponder too.
Thank you.